Councilmember Reeves.
Turn on my mic.
Councilmember McKee Can't.
Here.
Councilmember Knight.
Here.
Vice Mayor Tripp. Here. Mayor Moeller.
Here. Thank you. Can we stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
This time.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you. Can I get now a motion to adopt today's agenda?
Sorry.
You go ahead.
Move adoption of today's agenda.
I will second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Knight, a second by McKee Can't. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? That's unanimous. And then from here on out, I will use the buttons. Okay? Any council member announcements that are critical today to give?
Critical.
Nope. We have, okay, great. We have no proclamations and recognitions. Do we have any members of the public who would like to address us on an item not on today's agenda? Seeing none, I'm going to move to the consent calendar. First, I would like to suggest, I'd like to get a motion to approve items A through G, and then we will have Brad kind of introduce somebody we have in the audience, and then we can come back and approve item H. But, and so can I get a motion and a second for that? We also have a couple comments after that.
Mayor, I move adoption of consent calendar items A through G.
Okay, do we have a second?
I will second.
Okay, all in favor say, we're going to vote on our buttons.
Vice Mayor, I'm not seeing your vote. Thank you. And that passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. We've passed consent items A through G. And I know Councilmember Knight wanted to make a comment.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to take an opportunity for our consent calendar item B, where we have the process where we approved reappointment of 2 members to the Zoning and Design Review Board. We've gone through a new process in the last year where when we have applicants apply again and members that are incumbents on the committee reapply, and they're the only ones that we approve without interviews. And that's what's happened this time. I just wanted to thank Tom Henthorne and Stephen Miller. Stephen is the chair of the Zoning and Design Review Board now, but to thank them for reapplying and continuing to be volunteer and provide their expertise on ZDRB.
All right, great, thank you. And so before our town manager brings up consent item H, I just wanted to mention after that I would like to ask our Public Works Director, John Ferns, to come up and give us a little more detail on consent item F. So with that.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Item H is the adoption of 2 resolutions, but I need to read for the record that resolution number 24-4300 appoints Ken McNabb, a retired annuitant, as the Community Development Director with an hourly rate of $103.57 and no benefits, incentives, or compensation in lieu of benefits as required by CalPERS rules. So that's the formal thing I have to read, but I want to have Ken come up to the mic. Most of you know Ken because he was the interim planning director before Irene joined us, and I know all of you are aware. For those of you that are not at home, Irene has decided to retire. Her last day is this Friday. She's been with us over a little over a year, and I will, at the end of the meeting, give her the opportunity to say whatever she wants to say goodbye. I know that she doesn't like the spotlight, but I'm going to force it on her a little bit. But I do want Ken, again, acted in an interim role. He's got a long track record. A retired annuitant, for those that don't know what that means someone that worked under the CalPERS system and retired, and there are rules that allow you to come back and do these types of jobs. We did put out a recruitment last week. I think on Thursday it was published. So we're actively looking for a permanent long-term planning and building director, but I was really grateful to have someone who's already done the job that can fill the gap while we do that. So Ken, take it over, introduce yourself again, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. I just first want to start by thanking you and Brad for the opportunity to come back and serve your community. I remember from my time before and from working in the area in general, Yountville is a special place, and to be a part of helping council and the executive team and Brad achieve your goals and vision, is exciting to me. So I was excited when I got the call and see if I was interested in coming back. Just for those of you who may not remember my experience, I've been a planner, public planner in the North Bay for 20 years. I've worked for the County of Napa, the City of Napa, Calistoga here in Napa County, the City of Santa Rosa and Town of Windsor, over in Sonoma County. I have the full breadth of experience that you would expect a person in this position to have: development review, long-range planning, policy, special projects, all of which I know from my time here before comes into play. And I'm just very excited to work with the team. A lot of familiar faces here that I enjoyed working with before, and I'm excited to have some opportunity to interact with you and work under Brad. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And if there's any questions, I just want to end on a funny anecdote, at least to me, especially since I know that those are at home are seeing the beginning of a meeting, but we just ended a 2-hour study session, which was talking about the commons in the process we're starting. And when Irene and Ken and I were talking about projects that we needed to transition, there were several where Ken said, "Oh yeah, I started that." And so, he was involved in projects that continue to this day. So there's, I guess why it makes me giggle is because the process takes a long time, And so we do think, and work through, projects, and I'm grateful for that, because some of them I need to get brought up to speed on as Irene leaves with a bunch of knowledge. So to have Ken, who's a steady hand, but also someone who can pick up some of the stuff that we need to try to get through the finish line. I'm grateful. So any questions for me or for Ken? We're available.
Okay, thank you very much. So you're going to introduce Irene?
We're going to wait till the end for Irene.
Oh, at the very end. Okay.
Yeah, she's the last
All right,
act.
Director Ferns, thanks.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and council members. I am John Ferns, your Public Works Director. The item on the consent calendar is the next step in a process that the town is going through as part of a public water system. So as part of our public water system, we're operating under a permit from the state, which also triggers federal drinking water requirements, and the one that we're specifically talking about is the lead and copper rule revisions. And so what that means is the EPA has put it on the local water suppliers to determine the presence of lead and old style copper in the water system. And you hear the phrase service line quite frequently in this conversation. To clarify, and for the purposes of the town, there's two pieces to a service line. The first piece is the public one that goes from the water main in the street to the water meter, and that's the one that we are traditionally in charge of and maintain. And then there's the private piece that here in California, in Yountville specifically, is from the water meter to the house or the structure that's on the property. So traditionally, we're only responsible for that public piece that's in the street to the water meter. But in this case, the EPA has mandated that the town do exploratory and do an inventory of that private piece from the meter to the structure. And so in their effort to make us do that, they issued guidelines that are tools that we use to do this process so that we're following along. The first phase was an easy one for the town because we were able to go through and inventory all of the public pieces from the the main to the water meter and determine if any lead and copper fittings still remain, which we determined that there isn't. And so now we're in that second phase, which is trying to get inventory everything on the private side. And so the first thing that we do is review all the records that are available to us, because every subdivision came through at a different time. We had different building inspectors and or the county was inspecting on our behalf. You'll remember Washington Park, we had water line issues because the county was the town's inspector and we didn't have a role there. And so we gather all that information, and the first piece that the EPA has us do is a voluntary survey to all of our water customers. That went out. It was a mailer that went to all the water customers, and it specifically asked them to voluntarily survey their own pipe to see if they think or if it indicates that it might have lead and copper in it. We've had a great response from our customers so far. We've had more than 60 responses. The town does understand that not everybody is physically capable of doing this, and so we do remind everybody that it's voluntary, it's not required. Due to the amount of resources that it would take for the town to do this, we don't have the manpower to go out and physically do it for all 840 customers. And so the responses that we are receiving as part of that survey are now feeding the next step, which is where we are today. That next phase is the town is hiring a consultant to come in and help us put all the pieces together. So that the first big chunk of information that we will give them is the results of the survey, all of the records that have become available to us, and then they will develop the EPA required database and spreadsheet and mapping requirement that we're required to use to report to the EPA. Going through this, we will determine if there are any remaining lead and copper pipes and or fittings on the system, and when that happens, we will know where they are, and then we'll take the appropriate steps to do that. Based on input that we received regarding the survey mailer that went out, we are planning a more robust outreach to try to explain this process a little easier, remind people that the survey is voluntary and that we will have a consultant working on our behalf going forward, and there may be occasions when that consultant needs to check a pipe on somebody's property and or take a water sample. So if the final phase of that is after we've ruled out all the fittings, if there's locations that we can't for 100% sure determine visually that those pipes aren't there, we'll do a water test to see if the lead and the copper are showing up in the actual water. And so the message today is we've heard from the community that the survey was a little confusing, and so we're going to try to be better about explaining the voluntary nature of it and then also explain the process going forward.
So when are they, should we tell the public that you'd like to have them all back in by a certain date, or?
As soon as possible. I mean, we're working towards an October 14th deadline.
Okay.
And so as they come in, it's data that will feed the process along the way. So we're willing to accept it whenever.
Okay, we got a couple questions here. Councilmember Reeves has a question.
I have a couple questions. I have a couple questions. You said old style copper. Is there a new style that
Yes.
we can
Yes.
judge by? Is
So,
it a certain time
the
frame?
modern, it is a little confusing. The old style copper is not very common in this region, but we are required to look for it and test for it. And it is in a shape that's completely different than what the new style copper looks like. I have to make that distinguish, or I have to distinguish the difference, because we still do use copper, a certain type of copper, in the service lines in the modern era. So
Right.
we're ruling out the older ones that we generally don't have here. We're more focused on the lead piece of it.
So is the older style is a lot older?
Yes.
Before, say, 1960
Well,
or
everything
something?
that we're talking about is pre-1980, the end of 1985.
1985. Okay. And then what happens after the inventory and mapping process? Is there further requirements of the town?
So we're required to report that inventory to the EPA, and then depending on the results of that, we will have to develop a plan to remove the lead and copper that may still be in the system.
Is there any public money or a part of this process, any kind of grant money that's available to do that if we need to?
That has yet to be determined. We hope so, yes, but we don't know yet.
Okay.
Vice Mayor Tripp.
I think you answered this question. And in Yountville, in some ways, is sort of fortunate because a lot of the houses were built in subdivisions, which presumably might have been built similarly with similar piping. But did I hear, like with lead paint, it's 1972 or something, anything after 78. Is there a date for lead in pipes?
It was December 31st, 1985.
Okay.
So anything built before that needs to be inspected.
Okay, so like the
Anything built-
subdivision that I'm in was all built in the late 60s,
Yes.
early 70s.
Yes.
So that would be kind of a obvious hot spot.
Yes.
And will that information be available to the public?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, because that's a major concern,
Yes.
the lead for pregnant women and little kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
We don't believe that there is much, if any, left over in the entire system, but we have to go through this process to verify that.
And that's just because, what makes you think that? I mean, I know there's probably not in the public system, but in terms of the section that you described from the meter to the house.
Well, just based on our knowledge from building permits and water connections, and when as modern rules came into place and we required people to put backflow preventers on, that typically we learned a lot from doing that because the backflow preventer is behind the meter before the house.
Okay, well, that's
So you
reassuring.
get to see
Yeah.
and experience with the pipe.
Yeah,
We've
well,
been
and thank you
through-
for you're
yeah.
really an expert at this stuff, so thank you.
And we've been through lots of the street systems in previous
Yes.
years, too. So unfortunately, the Veterans Home is just starting that process. Councilmember McKee Cant, questions?
Oh.
Well, some of them were kind of asked, kind of taken. So with the neighborhoods that are older and have hot spots, will you explain again for the water meter to the house, if people have the older copper or the lead, is it the homeowner's responsibility? I know you said reports go to the EPA first.
I
but-
think that it will be the town's responsibility between the meter and the house if the service lines are discovered. One of the distinctions is here in California and Yountville specifically, we don't have responsibility of that private side, but it's different nationwide. And since this is a federal mandate, we're kind of a subset of that bigger federal mandate where lots of other places in the United States are responsible up to the house. So we're in an odd little spot there.
Okay. And then for the manufactured home parks, how does
Our responsibility ends at the water meter that serves the entire park. And so the state administers the building permits and things like that for the mobile home park. So the state would be the one that's responsible for anything inside the park.
And we as residents in like Rancho or Bella Vista have no way of knowing whether our management is actually doing their due diligence, especially for the homes that were built here in the 70s and 80s.
You would have to consult with your management to find out what they are doing.
Thank you.
And Councilmember Knight, final question.
Just quickly, thank you, Director Ferns, for your report. And so I know in this town, I know there's some people that talked to me that were concerned, about the whole process. I appreciate you explaining it and the volunteerism. Some people in neighborhoods that were built after 85, but we have to also realize there's big parts of neighborhoods, except for where infills have been replaced, homes have been torn down and replaced, that we do have older homes in town. And so it's a good thing for people to, at some point, to know about lead in their pipes. And so I know it's challenging at times to go through this process, but thank you for the work the town's doing. And it's best for the residents that they're aware that they have a healthy water line. So
Yes,
thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Director Ferns. Now I'd like a motion from the council to approve consent calendar item H. You can just call it out. You're going to, Councilmember McKee Cant, you're going to make a motion?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm happy to make that motion that we approve and consider adopt resolution number 24-4299. Wait, come on. You said H. I'm reading H.
That's the one that we pulled.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm
We
back
just
on the
pulled-
water
we-
one.
we pulled for
Approving the
discussion.
job
Now we need
description.
to
Go
approve
back
it.
to H.
Yeah, so just-
and the salary range for the community development director.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can everyone vote with your buttons, please?
That item passes unanimously.
All right, great. We have completed our consent calendar. Now, guest presentations. It seems like a quarter goes by really quickly, doesn't it? It's like, but it's one of my favorite times. So we are going to ask the sheriff's office to come up and give us their quarterly report for Yountville.
Great. Thank you, Mayor, Council. On behalf of Sheriff Ortiz, I'm your local area sergeant and liaison, James Baumgartner. I'm here to present the 2024 second quarter report. First slide, please. So, first of all, I'd like to thank Jason Bernard, our IT expert who helped me put this together, because without him, I would have been a complete train wreck. Second quarter 2024 calls for service and patrol checks. Everything status quo, everything looks about the same. I'm not going to explain the graph. We all know what the graph means and looks like. I'll get into the meat potatoes later. The reports and arrest, again, first quarter, second quarter, pretty consistent. Next slide, please. The crimes against persons, we did have a report of one robbery, one domestic violence for a total of 2. We did have a couple crimes on property with burglary, a grand theft, and a vandalism. The robbery was a Napa resident who has no ties to Yountville, forcefully tried to take personal property and a vehicle from the victim. This subject was contacted and arrested for 11-550, which is under the influence of drugs and narcotics, PC 211, which is strong arm robbery, PC 215, which is a carjacking. So a lot of felonies involved here. And the victim was not physically hurt, but I'm sure this took an emotional toll on this person. Services were obviously provided to this person. This did go through this happened before I came to Yountville, just a couple weeks, so I wasn't really familiar, so I had to look into it. The person, this did go through the court process. He did plead guilty to some of these felonies. He was given jail time and put on probation. We do know who he is, so if we see him here in the town of Yountville, we know who he is. The other crimes on person was a domestic violence that took place at one of the hotels. Again, no Yountville resident was involved. Female was arrested for domestic violence on her husband, and this case is still pending the court process. The crimes against property, 2 of these calls were actually calls that I handled, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. The one was a car was broken into on Yount Street during the night hours, and construction tools were taken. It's still pending suspect information. We had no leads on any suspect. The other one was a cell phone was taken from an unlocked car at the south end at the bocce ball courts. The victim left her car for seconds to use the bathroom, and her car was unlocked, and the person took the cell phone right off the center console. Again, no suspect information. We tried to track the phone. The phone never turned back on. So again, that's in pending suspect information. The third one was a report of property damage to the town. The subject was contacted and given a misdemeanor citation for the damage. It was later discovered that the actual property was not damaged. Therefore, the case was dismissed. But again, we know who this person is, and if we see him in town, we will keep an eye on him. Next slide, please. So this is our traffic collisions. There was no reports of traffic collisions during this this time. The traffic citations, the misdemeanor citations, parking citation, everything is pretty consistent here. As far as the parking sites, it looks a little bit down, but I think you'll see a little bit difference on my next quarter report. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Next slide, please. So this is your same Yountville team. Other difference is myself and Deputy Mulgado, Deputy Mike Moore, Deputy Chris Benoit. Just a little side note, all of us put together have 80-plus years of law enforcement experience, so you have a very veteran team here in Yountville. A couple of the engagements that obviously the town council meetings that I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot, and I'm glad to be here. Yeah, a lot of people think it might be boring, but actually I'm actually retaining a lot of information, good information. So I'm glad to be here for those and just put that information in the back of my head. The Upper Valley Waste Management, obviously, I'm still attending those. Top right, myself, that was on my day off. I came down, got with Deputy Mike Moore, and another event that I've never been at, shame on me, was the California Veterans Home Memorial Day. That was a pretty impressive event to attend. Glad to be there for that. Rock the Ride, and then Pride in the Park. Again, myself and Deputy Moore were in attendance for that. Next slide, please. Special thanks to our Public Works team for making this happen. Our office received new countertops. The original countertops, I'm not sure what happened on the graveyard hours, but if the beavers from over at the fire station came over at the golf course, I don't know, but it looked like people were eating on them. But we have beautiful wood countertops. Absolutely just a great job done by Level on the Level construction company. So again, thank you, Public Works, for making that happen. Also new to our fleet are two 2023 Ford Explorer hybrids. I do have to throw myself under the bus on this one because the first day on the job, I thought the car was dead. I turned the key and nothing happened, and I was going to jump start it, but I read on the dash it said ready, so I put it in gear and it went. When I did go on vacation, the sergeant here did try to jump start the car. Did not do any damage to y'all's cars though. Okay, next slide, please. Safety tip. The weather has been extremely hot, and I came up with this one just because it's people getting relaxed and not thinking about it. But we've got our ACs running all day, and we open up our doors and windows at night and go to bed. There are people, we're safe here in Yountville. We're here in Yountville as law enforcement, but there are people that walk around at night and look for these little things. And front doors wide open with the screen shut, they look for this. So please lock your house when you go to bed. And also, if you see something, report it. If you see something suspicious, please call us. And then next slide is the phone numbers provided to obviously see something, call in. Thank you so much. Any questions?
First, I just want to make a comment. Thank you to our local sheriff as well as Station 12 for our great Yountville night out last Wednesday, and of course Hillary for really organizing everything. We all went around to all 8 block parties, and everybody had a great time. I got a lot of great feedback from that event. They really liked seeing the horses and the new fire truck. I did tell everyone it cost $1.8 million. They were quite impressed with that. So anyway, it was just a really special night, I think, for the whole town. So thank you guys for doing that.
Absolutely.
We have a question from McKee Kent.
I just want to thank the station with the new EVs. We've noticed that the cars aren't running, which had been a request that we made last year, especially through the summer. We know you need your systems up and ready to go, but the EVs are making a difference there, I'm sure. Yountville Night Out was a great success in my hood, so thank you for that. And then lastly, thank you for ramping up and going to all these events while you were planning for and having a new baby.
Oh.
He and his wife had a baby on Father's Day?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so congratulations.
Thank you.
again. Yeah.
Thank you. Absolutely. My pleasure to be here. And I can't wait to talk about National Night Out at the next quarter meeting. Absolutely. I'll bring
You
that
have
up. Thank
photos,
you.
I bet, huh?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Jason will probably help you with
Yes, he will. Yes, he
on the
will. He
slide.
is. He will be on the books for sure.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
Napa County CAL FIRE quarterly report. Who got the? Oh, you got both got the short straws, huh?
We brought the whole team.
All right, let's hear it.
So before we get started, Mayor, Council members, J.C. Greenberg, your Battalion Chief here in Yountville and Napa County Fire. First off, before we get going, I want to introduce our new fire chief. So with Chief Marcucci retiring at the end of this past June, we got a new fire chief that came on here at Yountville, Napa County Fire, and then also with CAL FIRE. So I want to introduce Fire Chief Matt Ryan and his experience here in the Valley, alumni over here at Station 12, and say a couple words before we proceed. Thank you.
Oh, great. Welcome back.
Good afternoon,
Welcome
Mayor
home
and
again.
Council members. I just want to say it is a true honor to be appointed as the new Unit Chief and Fire Chief of the Napa County Fire Department. As Chief Greenberg was saying, my tenure here at Yountville was for 8 years, so I do understand the community, the outreach the fire station does for the community. That will continue under my leadership. It is much appreciated how much support that the town gives to your fire station at Yountville Station 12. And with my leadership and the leadership of Chief Martin and Chief Greenberg, nothing will change, and we will continue to foster those relationships and continue moving forward. And with that, thank you so much. I'll have Chief Greenberg continue with the quarterly report.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, for our second quarter, we'll go to the next slide, please. So this right here is a couple different graphs that really shows what's going on in the town throughout the county, what Station 12 does or respond to through this contract. So you'll see in the second quarter there was 118 calls for service here in the town, 190 in the county itself, and then 129 at the Vets Home. And it gives you a couple different graphs on the right side of your screen to kind of depict how that changes versus last year and what the 5-year average was, kind of showing where the uptick in service is. And some of this is based on just the tourism and some of the other events that are going on and where this drives a lot of our calls. So next slide. Through the town, the different types of calls that we go to. This is traditional through the nationwide and throughout the county, where most of the calls that we go to are medical aid calls for service. Some of the other ones you'll see hazardous conditions. That's not one we see pop up a whole lot, but with the wind events and some of the power outages, those are tree downs, lines down, where we're there to protect the public and kind of secure the area until the utility folks can come in and help out. So that one does fluctuate depending on the time of the year. And then as we move around, you'll see alarm soundings on there. So most of those are fire alarms, commercial buildings, false alarms that our crews do respond to. And then you'll see the traffic collisions that comes up each quarter, where the difference between what the sheriff's report and then what we have on here just based off of jurisdictions there. So, next slide. And then with our neighbors up at the Vets Home, the calls that are serviced up there, 91% of them, which is pretty standard, is helping out those members of that community with those medical needs, making sure they're taken care of. And then there's a few other ones, miscellaneous fires or smoke checks that do happen up there, but nothing alarming that has happened throughout the town or even up at the Vets Home over quarter number 2. And next slide. Some pictures here that we wanted to share with you is, so as you are aware, the Station 12 not only works here in the town, but they respond mutual aid throughout the county. There's a lot of larger events that require numerous responses and personnel to help out on fires throughout the county and even the city of Napa. And then if there's something that happens here in the town, those people are coming in mutual aid for us. Thankfully, we didn't need their assistance this last quarter, but others did need our help. So on the top left, you'll see up there where there was a commercial structure fire downtown St. Helena. Took numerous personnel to actually take action on that, along with the ladder truck and personnel that were inside. So the other one was it actually turned out to be a commercial, or was reported as a commercial fire, but turned out to be large mulch piles up at the Upper Valley area in St. Helena as well, Whitehall Lane area. That came out in the early hours undetected. Passerbyers noticed it, and we showed up, and we were there for several hours to help mitigate that problem and get that secured. And good help from the company as well, bringing in large equipment to move the massive piles of mulch that was up there. And then the last photo on your right, at the very top of Soda Canyon Road, the fire crews here in Napa County and Yountville made a great stop on a residential fire that luckily saved that home and kept the damage minimal. So great response from there, especially in the rural areas, long travel distances. They were able to help on that structure fire on the residential side. Next slide. I think a big event that we've all been kind of talking about, and but just to bring to light here, is one of our longtime captains has moved on in the organization, more or less trying different avenue. Hopefully, going to promote soon to a position that I'm holding here at some point. But that's Tony Aston. So he was been here for over 10 years over at Station 12, been a part of the town, helped build a lot of the training programs that have brought the expertise forward, put the old truck in service. The new truck came on here, so kind of a special time for us over at Station 12 in the town here. You know, when we have somebody that is a part of this community for so long, and they're moving on, but good intentions on where he's going, and hopefully we'll see him back over here. So congrats to Tony Aston, and appreciate all of his help there. Next slide. And then also we want to highlight some of our newer members that are coming on board. So we have engineers that are coming on board. We have new fire captains through the contract and some of those additions to help bolster up our staffing. So some of the familiar faces you might start seeing is up here on the left-hand side of your screen. You'll see one of our new engineers, Paul Bossard. In the middle there, Fire Captain Pat Everett, who's been in the county at our Napa station over 25 for 12 plus years, and now he's here with us in Yountville. And then an engineer, William Hines, that has just recently joined us and going through all the training. So with the new truck in service and the engine and new area, the crew over there is going to be busy getting everybody caught up. So next slide. An event that the Station 12 participated in that was a big hit was over here at the Yountville Summer Camp Water Day at the Yountville Elementary School. But a great event where the kids get to interact with the firefighters through the different games. And it's a good way to connect to this young generation now, to inspire them. We can build in some of our safety messages, some of the training that they can take home with them, but then we can also work with them on a personal level as well. And some of them still come back to the fire station, and hopefully they'll be applying sometime in the next 15 years. So it's a good way to connect with them. It's also our recruitment. Keep them out of the sheriff's office. So some of the specialized training. So I pulled a couple of these pictures out to kind of really just talk about. So I mean, we see the fire engine, the ladder truck, and some of the other disciplines that we do. But our technical rescue and our Rescue 12 that we also have over at the Yountville station, these are some of the calls that we're training on. So they're very low frequency events that do happen. They're very high risk. It's a high risk to the public when they're put in these situations. But we have the opportunity to go out and train on buildings in the county with our whole rescue team and use these tools that we have to be ready for some of these events. So what this is actually an elevator shaft rescue. This is over at the Paul Ma's Winery, so they were gracious to let us come out and train on a time when they didn't have visitors there and isolate the area. Simulated a earthquake where the elevator car was stuck at the lower level, and our only way in was from the upper floor there. And so we set up a system to lower rescuers down into that area to make access, capture the public that was trapped in those elevator cars, and then bring them back up to the top. So hopefully we don't ever need that, but the folks are training every day throughout the county to use these tools to be ready for if a call for like that does happen. So something I wanted to share with you on some of the other specialized tools that maybe the public doesn't see that often. So next slide. Our safety messages. So the first one I want to talk about is defensible space. We're here in the summer. The big threat is the wildland fires. The news is plagued with the large fires that are burning throughout California. We've had several here in Napa, the surrounding counties. But the biggest thing I want to work and continue with the town of Yountville is that while we aren't in the hillside areas, but we're surrounded by it, when large fires come through here, like we saw the Glass Fire, the 17 fires, the winds pick up later this fall, it's the embercast that's going to cause problems down here on the valley floor. And with those embercasts is the problems with defensible space, and specifically in the town here is debris in the gutters or the roofs. So those are catcher's mitts for those embers that is going to cause ignition, but real important that we don't let our guard down here, that we make sure that we maintain this defensible space, cleaning out those gutters. And the station folks have been working with members of the public as they go to medical aids and other events to really kind of reiterate that we make sure that we're up to speed on all that. So. The other safety message I want to talk about, and I know the sheriff's brought up too, is with this hot weather is just staying hydrated. This is a time of year, especially with the heat waves that we've had, is making sure the public stays hydrated, our employees, and then also our tourists, because that does bring up an uptick of calls for service, but it's something to be aware of that we all need to watch out for. So as we continue working through the summer, this is just something that we all need to be cognizant of. And as we have events that we have water stations set up, or we've even had to cancel some events just due to the safety of the public. And I think that's what we really got to do to make sure that the safety is brought forward there. So, and with that, any questions at all that I can answer?
No, just thank you very much. We'll see what questions kind of come up, but just wanted to let you know that we're going to be opening up a gym in the Yountville Commons, the old school site here. I know you guys haven't had one in town for a while, so you might want to consider joining. Just talk to our town manager.
That
here.
sounds great.
It's going to be a lot of fun, and I know a lot of people would be very happy to see you guys there. You guys were always popular at the other gym. So with that, just saying, I was told to say that by the public. So Councilmember Knight.
Thank you for your report, and welcome to new fire captain. Thank you. So I'm just curious, you talked about mutual aid. I know you with mutual aid, you go out and work all over the valley and beyond when they call you. But just generally, when we see you go out, is there a north-south area that you typically are called for that is the Station 12's area?
Yeah, so a lot of the mutual aid that we're called out for, some of the boundaries is I think what you're kind of pointed to there is on the north end of the town or the valley, it's up towards Calistoga. So we usually don't go past there. Mount St. Helena might be another one. If there's vehicles over that side where they need specialized ropes or equipment, we may go up there. But mainly within the county itself jurisdiction is where most of this resides, and then down to the south at the airport area. Mm-hmm. So as we mobilize resources through the mutual aid system, and if there's a call down in the southern end of the county, then we have our St. Helena engines that's with Napa County Fire that they come down and they cover the town of Yountville. And so we just kind of mobilize the resources to make sure we have coverage behind, and then we also can support those calls.
So generally, though, I mean, you're right, with mutual aid, I know they're shifting engines and things like that depending on where people are at in other places, but generally under a normal setting, you wouldn't have like Rutherford to Oak Knoll. Is it kind of, it really depends on the conditions and where other vehicles are at the time? Is that how you generally plan, or?
Well, actually, so the Rutherford, so the initial response area that we like to call it, where the sphere of influence for Station
Right.
12, so that is all the way up to the Whitehall Lane area.
Okay.
So if there's any calls up there, then Station 12, along with Rutherford, they're all on the dispatch, and they go up to roughly that boundary there, which is just south of the city of St. Helena itself.
Whitehall. And then south to just before the town limits of the city of Napa, or?
Yep, that's correct. So yeah, there's the Oak Knoll area right
Right.
there, and then all the way over to Silverado Trail
Good. Thank
from
you.
that point. So that's kind of the box that they operate initially in, and then depending on the call type, they may go out a little bit further. So
Good, thank you.
absolutely.
Thanks for your report.
I don't see any more questions, so thank you very much for coming. And great, again, to see all of our public servants out on Yountville Night Out. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, now it is time. We have one public hearing today, and this we're going to consider and introduce the reading on amending an ordinance section regarding smoking in public places. Looks like Irene is going to handle this for us.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. As the mayor mentioned, again, staff is asking the council to consider amendments to Title 8 of our Yountville Municipal Code regarding smoking in public places. Typically, the California Health and Safety Code establishes definitions for tobacco products, and currently the town of Yountville Municipal Code includes a less comprehensive definition of tobacco products. That does not specifically include vapor products, components of tobacco products, or other specific types of recently developed products. Again, as we all know, there's more products out these days than what is currently addressed in our code. So again, our code does not have a clear definition of tobacco products and exemptions for nicotine products that are approved through the FDA that help people to stop from smoking. And quit using tobacco products. So updating the code and the definitions of tobacco products, and by adding more specific examples, again, to provide for these newly developed products, it helps strengthen our town's code. Including these updates, definitions can also help the community address rising rates of youth vaping. And make it easier for those that are charged with enforcing the code to really enforce the code. So while the town of Yountville does currently ban tobacco use in public parks, the way the code is currently written, there are some type of tobacco products, again, that it kind of falls into the gray area. So we're trying to strengthen the code by adding specific wording and examples to help clear that up. And then lastly, by adopting the code amendments to Title 8, we will also be providing one more step in our blue zone requirements. And I believe this is probably one of our final steps to really grant us being a blue zone community. So we are asking that you waive the first, introduce the ordinance and waive the first reading. I'm happy to address any questions you have. And I believe Emily is here from Blue Zones, maybe, to address any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you very much. So since this is a public hearing, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. And so let's take any questions from council. Councilmember Reeves.
I'm actually ready to make the motion.
Oh, sorry.
Wait.
I have a few more procedural things to do. So seeing no more questions, I'm going to call for any public comment. Seeing no public comment coming forward, I am now going to close the public hearing and ask if Blue Zones like to come up and say anything.
For the record, Mayor, we did receive a public comment for this item in favor of it.
Great. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Jessica Chapin, and I'm actually not from Blue Zones, but I am on the Tobacco Policy Committee with the Blue Zones Upper Napa Valley, and my colleague Nancy is here. We are both with Napa County Public Health. and we represent our tobacco prevention program. So we're here mainly just to answer any questions and provide any technical assistance, but it sounds like you're not in need of that.
All right, great. Thank you very much. So now I'm getting some questions. Do you still want to just make the motion? Should I move on? Okay. Councilmember Knight, you have a question?
Once you have the motion, I do.
Okay, so, all right. Question, Councilmember Tripp?
I can wait until after the motion.
All right. So we are going to make a motion and then debate the motion and then hit our green lights and see whether they pass. So let's put a motion on the table.
So the reason I want to make the motion is because I was on the council when we made this no smoking original ordinance. So I would love to introduce and waive the first reading of ordinance 24-530, amending sections 8.28.020 and the other one of the Yountville Municipal Code regarding smoking in public places and finding amendments exempt from CEQA.
Do we have a second from Councilmember Knight? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Now, time for a little debate. I'll go to Vice Mayor Tripp first.
My question is a kind of a technical question, maybe more to Gary or Irene. So I completely understand and applaud the ideas applied to nicotine, but I was curious if somebody was using medical marijuana either to smoke or to vape it because the summary says any electronic device that delivers nicotine or other vaporized liquids. How would this ordinance impact somebody with a medical need? Would they get exempted from this? Not for tobacco, because there is no medical need for tobacco.
Right, and there is actually an exception for FDA-approved smoking cessation as well in the ordinance, and so to that point, sort of separate issue than what you asked. So Prop 64 and the town's regulation of personal use cannabis and also medicinal cannabis allows for it to be grown up to the 6 plants and also consumed within one's home. And so that would still be allowed and is allowed under state law. I don't believe this ordinance captures it in public, and I don't think that's what you're asking. So you
think you could vape in public or smoke medical marijuana in public?
I don't think that this ordinance touches on that.
Okay, that's all I wanted to ask. Thank you.
Councilmember McKee Can't.
With this new ordinance in place, I'm thinking about the movie nights, the concert nights. We have people here sitting at the picnic tables even without an event in town. Is it our sheriffs that are going to be making these stops? Or once we put this in place, what are the next enforcement steps?
Happy to take that one too.
Okay.
So it's in your municipal code, so there's a couple different enforcement options. It can be an administrative code enforcement matter, so like a citation, a fine, or a penalty. It could also be declared a nuisance if it was something that was ongoing and the town wanted to address it that way. There are also other options, so if there was a business that wasn't complying with this, there are also civil actions and other things the town could pursue. So because it's in your code, it's like any other code violation, and so your town staff would look at what are the different code enforcement options and which one to pick is based largely on the severity of it, and it usually starts with a warning and then it goes from there.
Okay. And this is public property. What if somebody's sitting out in front of, and this is probably a silly question because it's private property, but out in front of Bouchon in the public? I mean, we have a lot of tourists here where there's cigarette butts out in front of parks, and, it's just a hard thing to enforce, but it's important.
I think that's captured within the definition of a public space under the ordinance.
Even though it's privately owned, yeah.
Right, because there are other provisions of this ordinance which apply to restaurants, and there are also provisions of state law that prohibit smoking in enclosed areas as well in restaurants. There's some exceptions to that law if you have no employees, for example, and a few other things. So this is really about just changing the definition to encompass more modern and more recent iterations of tobacco and nicotine delivery systems. But the rest of the prohibitions stay in place, and the town's ordinance went as far as the state law would allow the town to go at the time, and that is still the case. So we're just capturing these other devices that none of us were thinking about the first time the ordinance was drafted.
Thank you.
Councilmember Knight, do you have a question, or is this
Just a
still
couple
left over for you in a
comments.
second? Okay.
I thought maybe the Blue Zone Project folks were here today, but not. I just wanted to thank them for their recommendations to update our ordinance, because anything that we can do to be a true blue zone community, I think, is a benefit to the residents. And then, just interestingly, I just wanted to thank the county for being here, and thinking back probably when Councilmember Reeves was on the council and you approved the first non-smoking ban. Maybe Skip Walters, who was an old-time resident of Yountville, was probably involved in the county at that time and probably helped us with that ordinance. So there's a lot of history here in terms of Skip being one of the very active back then to support non-smoking, and so this is I'm very supportive, and so thank you for your work.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to call for the vote. We ready, Town Clerk?
That passes unanimously.
All right. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for coming. Our one more agenda administrative item, we're going to consider discussing and approving the proposed town council meeting calendar for 2025 and town hall closing over the holiday break. So, town manager, are you going to? No, town clerk is going to do this report. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll briefly introduce the item. The final item before you is the 2025 proposed town council meeting calendar, as well as a few potentially canceled meetings on that, and a request for a winter holiday break for staff. So the holiday closure would be from December 23rd through the 27th, I believe, and the canceled meetings for the legislative break would be August the 19th and the first meeting in September, similar to this year, with the last meeting in August being canceled and the first meeting in September. The potentially canceled meetings follow any federal holiday, and that would be January the 20th and February the 17th. Note, those are tentatively canceled and will be held if town business dictates.
Thank you, Town Clerk. And I would just add that the holiday closure is similar to what was proposed and executed last year. And I do recognize, just like what we're hopefully accomplishing today, that lead time is important as you consider potentially closed meetings. So I would tell you, we can usually, with our agenda forecast, have a pretty good sense a couple months out, like if those meetings are going to be needed in January and February. So I will do my best to make the call as early as possible so people can plan accordingly. But the goal will be to cancel them unless we really have to get something done. So we are happy to answer any questions, but thanks for your consideration.
Councilmember Reeves.
I just wanted to throw out to the rest of the council whether or not you have the same feeling as I do, which is when we have our legislative break in August, September, that no other meetings or workshops that are council necessary be scheduled at that time either, so that we can actually plan for vacation time.
I think that's a noble idea, except you need to tell LAFCO, MVTA, flood control, all the other people. So I just can't seem to find a break. But anyway, all the county ones just kind of keep going. So,
but at least for our particular little spot of meetings, that we would be able to perhaps miss a county meeting if we wanted to actually have a vacation. So I just feel like it's more important to attend our local meetings always. So if I could be sure about that, then I'd be happy.
Okay. No, I completely agree. I just wish maybe you can make the rounds as the public for all these other ones on our behalf. But anyway, I'm totally fine with that. Any more Questions, comments?
I just wanted to echo what Pam said. I know we had a good reason, for example, to have the August 19th meeting and workshop. Maybe that's not the right word, open house. But it does make it hard to take a vacation in the latter part of August to take advantage of the fact we don't have a council meeting. So that's just a request, but I know everybody's working under it. And I guess I just also wanted to say I think it's a really great thing to close during Christmas. And I think it's even greater that basically because having worked at a public entity myself before, we did close frequently at Christmas, but they were not paid holidays. So in essence, we are adding, I didn't really count how many days that is, but how many?
3.
We're adding 3 paid holidays to the existing holidays that are given to town employees, all of whom really deserve it. But I do think that that's worth noting, and the council does it with our appreciation because it is certainly in no sense required.
And I am in total support of the 3 days off for the staff too. I know the reality of that. You actually get a week off, but you get all your work done the week before, and you have to catch up with all the stuff you didn't do the week after. So I've been there myself, but at least you have that time off. So I'm total support of that. Councilmember Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. So we scheduled a second meeting in December, but is that it's conditional, typically depending on workload? So you're okay. It just seems like at times that we typically don't have that meeting, but I understand you're scheduling it there anyway in case we need to meet. So thank you.
So who would like to make a motion that we go ahead and approve the council calendar and the winter break for staff? I will make that motion. Can I get a second?
I will second, Mayor.
Okay. And we'll vote. That passes unanimously. So congratulations, everybody. And yeah, great. And staff presentation, informational report. Do you have any updates?
Yeah, I just want to thank Irene for her service, give her an opportunity to say a few words. I mean, as you all know, she came not too much before me, but it's been a pleasure to work with you for the year. I wish you well in your retirement, and we're always here for you. If as you saw, we did bring a retired annuitant back today, so. But we wish you well and thank you for your service. So any last words?
Thank you, Brad. I appreciate that. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to have worked here for the town of Yountville for 1.5 years. And I appreciate and proud of my 32 years in service and public service, working in various jurisdictions like the city of Petaluma, city of Belvedere, town of Tiburon, and again here. So I'm proud of what I've accomplished and happy with what I've done in my career and the opportunities that I've had. I look forward to what's next for me. At this point, I have no big plans, but I am looking forward to what opportunities might arise and spending time with my family and, again, hopefully enjoying myself and having free time and just being again with my family. But I am very proud of what I've accomplished over my career, and I appreciate the council and all the hard work of the staff and that what they do behind the scenes to bring things to you and to the ZDRB board. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, and you have a very wonderful staff here and a good community. So you should all be proud of your staff and the community that you're in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more informational reports? All right. Any council external meeting reports you'd like to update us on? Councilmember Reeves?
I just wanted to give an update on the Climate Action Committee for the county. I think the biggest thing is about their greenhouse gas reports and the fact that they now have a website called climateactionnapa.konveio.com, and you can go to that website and make comments about the preliminary stages of the climate and adaptation and action plan. So anybody who is interested in that subject and who wants to make a comment or go to a meeting, you can see what the schedules are, and you can also leave your comments on that website.
Okay, thank you. I have several meeting reports, but since we have been here since 11:30, I will just announce I attended city selection, flood control, NVTA, as well as LAFCO. So with that, can we adjourn to our next meeting, which will be September the 17th at 3 p.m.? I'll make that motion. How about a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. You just want roll call or just voice vote?
Voice vote will be fine.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? All right. See everybody later, and thanks for your time.